Hello and welcome back to Let the Stone Speak. I'm Brent Nagtegaal here in Jerusalem, Israel. Last night I interviewed Dr. Scott Stripling. He's the provost at the Bible Seminary in Katy, Texas. He's also the director of the renewed Shiloh excavations that are about to start next week. However, this interview was about something extremely important. It was about the curse tablet that was found back in 2019 on Mount Ebal, the mountain of curse, as the Bible would put it, from Joshua's time. This was a discovery that was released to the public, first of all, last year, and then the scientific report of that, of this amulet or curse tablet just came out last week, and it's produced a lot of commentary on it. So I wanted to interview Dr. Stripling. He's the lead author of this paper to make sure we get the discussion from him, let him put it out there, why he published the scientific report where he did, and then some commentary on the importance of the inscription, and also some answering some of the commentary that's come out online since. Please forgive me for the recording. This was our original plan fell through right at the last minute as far as the software we're going to use, and so we settled with Zoom. So you'll have that to watch, but nevertheless, it's all there. All the audio is there and the video is there. So I hope you enjoy it. This again is with Dr. Stripling, recorded in Texas a day before he flies out to Israel for the Shiloh excavations. Dr. Stripling, thank you very much for coming back on Let the Stone Speak.
Happy to be here, Brent.
It's I think the last time we spoke was actually about the Mount Ebal curse tablet back when you had your big press conference announcing to the public the discovery of it, and then you were going to go away and get your scientific report published, and that was the effort, and that has been done. That has been done now. It was published earlier, I think it was last week. In Heritage Science, You Are Cursed by the God Yahweh, an early Hebrew inscription from Mount Ebal. So congratulations for that.
Thank you, sir. We're happy to have that out in the public domain.
Yeah, this past week, there's been just a barrage, absolutely, of people giving their own impressions, giving their own thoughts. Some people love it. Some people hate it. Some people think it's horrible. People think it's fantastic. So I thought it would be so good to have you on to get your take. And I've got some questions for you, of course. But I think what might be lost in all the translation and the words, I just want to set it up by going from kind of the known to the unknown about the actual artifact itself. So before we get to the inscription that's on it, please fill people in about the facts of the location this was found, the dating of it, just maybe in 2 or 3 minutes, if you can do that.
Well, I would love to. The tablet is about the size of a business card folded in half, small strip of lead. We recovered it in late December of 2019 doing a wet sifting project on Mount Ebal and at Shiloh. I was taking old dump piles from the 1980s to demonstrate what was being missed and left behind in the dump pile when we were not wet sifting. I was anticipating finding scarabs or bula, but I was not anticipating this lead tablet. When I saw it, it was discovered by Frankie Snyder in her tray, and she was our most experienced wet sifter, so it was fortuitous that it was in her tray. She and I both recognized what it was immediately, a defixio, because we've seen many of these. They're curse tablets. Mm-hmm. They're a known quantity. They're often found in tombs or wells, things like that. What was unique about this is that Adam Zertal had only identified 2 strata at Mount Ebal in his excavation from 82 to 89, stratum 1, stratum 2. So it was either late Bronze Age 2 or Iron Age 1. And so those were the only choices. And so I was kind of scratching my head saying, this is a curse tablet from the mountain of the curse from what appears to be Joshua's altar, but I'm only aware of these from a later time period, Hellenistic and Roman. So let's kind of hold on and see what research shows us. So I was more shocked than anyone, Brent, when our scanning from Prague, the tomographic scans that we did, came back and we began to see these proto-alphabetic letters. So we were sort of in shock because this proto-alphabetic script is the precursor of Paleo-Hebrew. So it's older than Paleo-Hebrew. So that's kind of how we found it and how we got to that point in the process.
So just if I could just give a a slight recap as well. I mean, this is, and I went back and I watched I read through the transcript of our interview, and this is before you knew what it said, before you had all the scans done.
Oh, what did I say?
And no, it was 100% accurate. I was
Wow.
actually really pleased to go back, and because we published that interview in our magazine, because it talked about how absolutely amazing it was to find a curse tablet on the mountain of curse in the right, in the right context, as far as you can get from doing a dump amongst, Iron One or late Bronze Age pottery. And you were just absolutely blown away. And then we did a follow-up interview, and it's like, we might actually see a letter or two. And you were thinking, I think I could see a resh maybe. Yeah. And it was just like, this was already phenomenal, this discovery, and just blown away. And then came the reading of the inside of the inscription. So people should realize, if you've been caught up in a lot of this back and forth, number one, even if the inscription on the inside, what you've got on your paper, even if there's debate about that, this is still an absolutely phenomenal discovery.
Right.
One more part about the dating that you bring out in your paper, I think, is significant as well. And this relates to the lead itself. Could you just...
Right. So we had the lead tested. There was a tiny piece of the corner that had broken off. We had that tested at Hebrew University, and the metallurgical results were very illuminating. We know, because of the chemical signature of the lead, we know the mine from which it derived, and it comes from the Aegean, a place called Lavrion, and a lot of lead objects come from that mine. So it's a well-known mine, and we know that it was in use in the late Bronze Age. And then what we also know is that exports from the Aegean to Israel, Canaan, ceased around the year 1200. So, archaeology is a contact sport, Brent.
Don't we know it now?
There's not a lot that we all agree on, but I think everyone agrees that exports from the Aegean to Israel, Canaan ceased around the year 1200. It's the collapse of the late Bronze Age civilization.
Right.
Okay, so we're all on board with that. So if we put those two together, it comes from a mine that was in use in the late Bronze Age, and then there were no exports for a long time after 1200. Then this supports the idea of a pre-1200 date.
Right. So let's talk about the paper now and the inscription itself. I guess the inscription has two parts. The part that you're discussing in this paper with your co-authors is from what's actually inside. So nobody can see this part of the inscription. This is done with some amazing technology. And no offense to your paper, but I read the introduction, the archaeological context, and then when it got to tomographic reading of the interior text, methodology, reconstruction of the tablet, it was like, I need some type of help with that. But it was so good that you put that in there, because this is showing how you can read inside of a lead tablet, which apparently X-rays are not meant to, be able to go through. So briefly talk about that process, if you can. And then, how can you derive the reading that was gotten from those scans?
Well, I got an education on this myself as we went through the process on what tomographic scanning was. I was vaguely familiar with the process, but once we started doing it, I became fascinated. And what they're able to do is, through a series, kind of like a CAT scan in the human body, to penetrate through and using the echoes or the reverberations to accurately see what is on the inside. So fascinating that, we knew we could do this with, say, paper, a scroll, a carbonized scroll, to read through it and unfold it digitally. But I did not know we could penetrate through lead until we started this process. We found a lab in Prague that had demonstrated that we could, and that's how this came about. So imagine the journal trying to find peer reviewers that have expertise in tomographic scanning. So there's that scientific aspect of it, and then the archaeological expertise, and then the epigraphic and paleographic expertise. So, it was a bit time consuming, this whole process. Not only did we want to dot every I and cross every T, but there were interdisciplinary sciences that had to come to play as well.
So there is some pushback, I guess, initially on the choice of the
Yeah.
journal, and that probably speaks to that. Would you like to speak to why it was published in Heritage Science?
Yes, I would. I would first let me say this: no matter what journal we would have chosen, and we considered many, it in some people's mind that would not have been good,
Right.
unless it was their journal. So there were a number of the people who have spoken out now who are already on the record as being predisposed against this, and so I don't think any journal would have satisfied these people. Heritage Science is part of the prestigious Springer family of journals. It's the creme de la creme. It's ranked in the 93rd percentile of all journals.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a prestigious place. We had to find a place to publish it that would satisfy our colleagues in Prague, and that would satisfy the epigraphers, and that would satisfy me archaeologically. The peer review process was rigorous. There were three peer reviewers, and they
And they're
gave us,
anonymous, right? They are
yeah,
chosen by the journal itself.
that's right, blind peer reviewers. The goal of peer review, Brent, as you know, is not just to say yes or no, but to help
Right.
you improve the paper.
Right.
Okay, so you've got experts who are qualified, and so you'll get comments like, or suggestions like, if you added a table here that illustrated this, it would make it more clear. Those types of helpful things. So we went with Heritage Science, and incidentally, the article has been out now for 5 days, and it's trending in the 99th percentile of all journals. So of all articles within journals. So that's why we went with Heritage Science. And on the second part, we may go with a different journal. We haven't gotten that far yet.
And so, can you just describe these two parts? The first part, I guess, is the general context of the discovery, as well as the inscription on the inside, and then you're going to publish the outside. Is that correct? Later.
That's right. Let me say one more thing about the journal choice. I saw one critic a couple of days ago made this ridiculous statement. He said, "Heritage Science is a pay-for-play journal. You pay, and they don't publish it unless they're." So in other words, they're going to publish this, of course, because you're paying them money. So all open access, to my knowledge, that I've dealt with, there's a fee that you pay so that anyone can download that article. That's what makes it open access.
Mm-hmm.
That has nothing to do with whether it's accepted or not accepted.
Right.
So this particular scholar implying that we paid someone to publish this is just laughable. I hope his own colleagues thump him on the head for saying that.
So it
Yeah,
looks
what
like
was your question?
it looks like it was. So yeah, the next one, I guess. Can you speak briefly about the authors? You're the overarching author, the main author, and then you have a couple of epigraphers. Why were they chosen? And then also you have, I guess, the scientists from Prague. Is that all of you?
Yes. So I initially I had the scientists first because we had discovered them with the help of Zvi Koenigsberg, my friend. We had entered into a relationship with this group in Prague. And so, first of all, I had them on board. And then, once I knew we had something, we started seeing letters that clearly, like an ox head morphing into an olive. So, when I knew that we had something, I invited Peter van der Veen to join the collaboration, a well known West Semitic epigrapher. And Peter accepted. And then I told him that I would like to have a second epigrapher to make certain. I want two people to tell me that we're seeing what we're seeing before I stick my neck out. And he suggested, or I don't remember, maybe I suggested, but anyway, we discussed and agreed that Gershon Galil would be a good choice. I had a European, I had an Israeli, someone who's Jewish, someone who was a Christian. I wanted some diversity of idea and thought within there to make sure that we were seeing the same thing. So ultimately, we had the scientist in Prague, the two epigraphers, and me.
So when I read your paper, and go through the inscriptions itself, you have, this, it's kind of like an internal debate within the paper. If you read the fine print towards the end, there's a maximalist position where there's a lot of letters being seen on the inside. And then there's a more circumspect, I would say, position, which perhaps doesn't see as many, and probably doesn't, I'm not sure whether the reading whose discernment is the reading itself? Is this
Mm.
a general position of all the team? Is this one scholar with that reading? Do you agree with part of the reading, not all of it? What's your take on that?
Yeah, well, you're right. And but I hope that the readers and viewers will see this as a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That we didn't go in to prove a point, because within the own team I wanted diversity of thought, and we tried to reflect that. But the consensus was that this is more or less what this inscription is saying. It is a curse. It has the name Yahweh within it. It seems to be self-imprecatory. Gershon believed that, he could see everything. He was positive of all 48 letters and had no doubt in his mind. Peter and I were, we could see most of them, and the ones that we weren't sure, we wanted to say we weren't sure, so that other scholars then could have at it and hash this out. When we're dead and gone, we want people to have good data to go by to hash this out. So yeah, that was the process, and I think it was a good one.
So as far as you're concerned, and let's just say with Peter van der Veen, I'm not trying to get into too much of a debate going here, but are some of those very important words, Yahweh, are these more clearly seen on the scan than the entire inscription, do you believe? Like the critical words that would, kind of fight against the documentary hypothesis and things like that, are they more visible in your opinion than perhaps all the others?
Yes, none of the mentions of the divine name, there are not disputed letters within those. Okay. So just to remind the viewers, we're dealing with scans, and they're tiny letters. And so they're inscribed with a stylus. And in part B, we'll talk about the style. We recovered 2 styluses in the excavation. So you got a stylus, you're writing on tiny letters. Sometimes they overlap and you don't have a standardization that's going on. So it's a bit complicated in that sense. But here's what helped. We thought, for example, we were seeing the name Yohevah. And later we discovered, when we got new photos back of the outside, high-res photos of the outside, we found bulges on the outside reinforcing what we thought we were seeing on the inside. And that gave us great comfort that, what we thought we were seeing in the scans was reinforced by the bulge.
And some of those bulges, I guess, that are on the outside, that'll appear more to be discussed in the next paper as well.
That's right. Yes. And, it's mentioned in here. And so I hope that people will really take note of that. So, in the final analysis, Brent, what we did, and again, you said a more minimalist view, and this certainly was my goal from the start, is I want to say we've studied this for a long time.
Right.
Spent countless hours staring at these scans and putting it all together. All I am saying is, to the best of my ability, this is what I think it says. Right. I found it. I'm responsible for publishing it. I can't pretend that I didn't find it.
Right.
And so now this is, to the best of my ability, what I think it says. Here's the raw data.
Right.
If you think it says something else, that's fine. Every inscription that's ever been published, there have been scholars come out with alternate readings of it. So
yeah,
that's where we are.
I just interviewed Daniel Weinstub of the Pithos inscription in Jerusalem, and he just presented a new reading. I think this is maybe number 11 or 12, and this has 8 letters. So yeah, so there's always going to be some debate over this. And I don't know, I'm untrained, I'm not an epigrapher. I can definitely see some letters on there. I probably can't see as many as as you could see. I haven't been staring at these for that long. And I think it's always good for people to remember, you've got a scan that's quite small. You've got a small defixio folded in half. You're looking through the middle of it, and you're trying to make out the letters from that as well. Have you thought of doing like a dummy, creating your own defixio right now in a piece of lead with a stylus, clamp it down, and then see what the scans with some letters that you're absolutely 100% sure I'm writing these letters in there, then squeezing it together, putting it together, and then going through these scans, just see the quality of the images that comes back.
Brent, you're brilliant. No one has brought that up. I wish I could take credit for it, but now you're on the record on the air. Everybody knows it was your idea. No, I have not thought about that, but that is a great idea.
So going forward now, you've got the one paper done. You're going to obviously bring in other people and think about the feedback of what other people give. And then you'll have your secondary paper. This one was sent in, received December 29th, accepted March 26th, published May 12th. This is a 5-month process. How soon can we expect the next paper?
Well, I know, and then we all have lives on top of this,
Right. You're about to leave tomorrow for
right.
the dig in Shiloh, so I appreciate you coming on for this.
Yeah, in jobs that we actually get paid to do. So we hope to, by the end of this year, I haven't finalized what the collaborative group will look like for Part B yet, but we've already started researching. We don't have to go back over the archaeological context again in the next article. There are a few things I want to add, like about the styluses.
Yeah.
We don't have to go back over the tomographic stuff again, the scientific stuff. We can just refer to it. So in a sense, it's a little more simplified, and we've already got our research done on the letters, parallels and research. So it won't be nearly as complicated. So I would hope by the end of 2023 that we would have it done, and then sometime in 2024, maybe early in 2024, that it would be out. These things always are more complicated than we want them to be.
And you'll probably just need enough time to recover from this one before you publish the next one.
I know, so true.
Well, I don't want to talk about it too much. I think people should go to it and read it themselves. We had an article up on by Christopher Eames on our website that we published, just going through different commentary and hopefully just providing a bit of a big picture look at this. Because again, you've got a bunch of scientists that are going to start yelling at each other over a few letters, and then you can throw the baby out with the bathwater. This is one of the most amazing discoveries ever made in the land of Israel that supports the biblical text, regardless of if the whole inscription is accurate or not. It is already up there. So again, thank you very much for going to the dumps, sifting the dumps, finding what you found, going through the paper process, and then dealing with the onslaught of not your enemies, your fellow scientists that are hopefully the goal of science, right, is to try and get to as close as we can get to the.
Excellent. Well, thanks for the opportunity to talk about it, and look forward to seeing you in Jerusalem soon.
Yep, a couple of weeks. Good to see you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much for watching to the end, and thank you for Dr. Stripling for taking the interview. I would like to mention our magazine. This is Let the Stones Speak. This is the issue that we produced last year as the result of a discussion about Joshua's altar. This one is available online for free. It's just by PDF download. However, if you want to receive the hard copy of the magazine going forward, you can do so for absolutely nothing, absolutely free. Simply go to our website, armstronginstitute.org, scroll down, and you'll see a place where you can enter in your details to receive this magazine. It's on biblical history, biblical archaeology. And you can also, if you don't want to go to the website, just write an email to letters@armstronginstitute.org saying that you would like to receive Let the Stones Speak, and also put your address and your name, of course, and we'll make sure you get put on our subscription list for the next 6 months. All you have to do is show that you're interested, reply within that time saying, I want to be put on it, renewed for a year, and again, we'll make sure you continue to get copies of Let the Stones Speak. And then it'll never be charged, so don't worry, you'll never be up for any money. You can keep on renewing year in, year out. Make sure you get this magazine. It's very important. Thanks again for listening, and I'll talk to you next time.